Hey guys, so for this lesson we're going to be talking about three things: axis lines, ellipses, and transparent construction, or drawing through, imagining that the forms that you're rendering are transparent, that you can see the front and the back edges of them. Again, always make sure that you're reviewing the PowerPoint. Really great examples of what we're doing, taken quite a bit farther than the demos that I'm doing here. So check those out. Axis lines. Axis lines provide structure and symmetry for a form. They're essentially the skeleton of a form. Ellipses are circles in perspective. You can do a very easy model of an ellipse, drawing a perfect square, dividing that square into quadrants, so you're finding the center of that square, dropping a circle into that square, and then imagining that it's leaning back so that that circle is going into perspective, and that is your ellipse. Okay? So ellipses are circles in perspective. The main axis lines in your ellipses are 90 degrees from each other. They're perpendicular. With an ellipse, a circle in perspective, you have two sets of axis lines that are equidistant. We've got these long guys happening, and then these shorter guys happening. These are your two sets of axis lines. Remember, whenever you're working with an ellipse and you're dropping those axis lines in that ellipse, make sure that you're dividing that axis or that ellipse into 4 equal pie pieces. The other thing to remember when it comes to ellipses is that at the eye line, your ellipses are perfectly flat. So when you have an ellipse that's happening even with your eyes, you're going to see that ellipse as being perfectly flat. The farther above your eye line or the farther below your eye line, the rounder or fuller that ellipse is going to be. So we have a very simple cylinder happening here. I'm just going to do a really quick demo of using axis lines and drawing my ellipses through to suggest the depth and structure of that cylinder. Keeping in mind both the top and the bottom of that cylinder are below my eye line, but the bottom, because it's farther down from my eye line, the bottom ellipse is going to be a bit rounder than that top ellipse. So I'll start my drawing. I'm working with my Vine charcoal. I've got a straight edge, my charcoal pencil, and a skewer. You guys can use a ruler, a skewer, or some sort of like dowel rod or something. Pushing and pulling through the length of the Vine charcoal. And drawing my ellipses through. Again, remembering this transparent construction, imagining that my object is transparent, that I can see both the back and the front edges. And what this does, when you're working with multiple objects, this really helps to give you a sense of the structure of that object and the relative placement in space of one object to another. Okay, the guy's a little tall. I'm going to shorten him up just a bit. Okay, so I've got my rough, loose gesture for my cylinder, nice and light. Now I'm going to start drawing this guy from the inside out. I'm going to firm up this axis line, making sure that that axis line is parallel with my right and left border so that my object is not leaning. Okay, nice, straight, vertical axis line. Think of like the crease in a Valentine's Day heart, right? You fold a piece of paper, cut out that teardrop shape, open it up, and you've got a perfectly symmetrical Valentine's Day heart. That crease is the axis line. To help me with my symmetry, I'm just going to measure off of that central axis tip of my thumb at that central axis, tip of the skewer at that side happening here, and then I'll just move that right over to ensure that both sides are the same distance from that central axis, therefore ensuring my symmetry. Can use my straight edge, help me out here. And now I've got a pretty good skeleton for this form. Okay? Like that back edge happening about so. Remember, from the center of that ellipse to my top and bottom need to be the same distance. So I'll just do a quick little measurement, just to make sure that that distance and that distance are the same, this distance and that distance are the same, and again, got my 90-degree relationship between those axis lines happening. And then I can use this to start to rough out my ellipses. I'm going to give this front lip a little bit more weight because I want that to pull forward and feel a little bit more dimensional. Thinking about my line variation. No, I want my bottom to happen about so. And remember, we want the bottom ellipse to be a little bit fuller, a little bit rounder than that top ellipse. And still drawing through. Still thinking about our transparent construction. Making sure that I'm not pinching the corners of my ellipse. I don't want to be drawing footballs. Nice, round, graceful edges to that ellipse. Making sure I'm good and perpendicular there. And again, a little bit more weight, a little bit darker, slightly thicker line at this bottom. And if that back has gotten a little heavy, if it's asserting itself a bit much, I can lighten that just a touch. But again, I want to be drawing through that object, showing that back edge. That's going to help create a sense of dimension, space, and structure with that object. And 90 degrees. Okay, symmetry, structure, stability. Axis lines, ellipses, and transparent construction. Good luck.